Welcome to AD Chats with Mohajir and Marc. He's the Mohajir part. I'm the Marc Daniels part. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm great. It's football season.
I know.
Yeah.
That's great.
How's your world?
It's all good, man.
Yeah.
It's fun. Just trying to navigate through all the stuff, the new day in college athletics.
Yeah.
How about that?
How's your family?
Family's good, man.
You got son
Family's
playing
good.
football, right?
You know, and I know people say, why are you doing this? But my wife just turned 50.
Yeah.
And we had a big celebration. She always dreamed to take my two daughters. I have three kids. I have two daughters, and one that's 23, one that's 21.
Yeah.
They've been planning this for almost 10 years to take them to Napa on a Napa trip. Yeah, Napa trip. So they went about 2 weeks ago. They went out to Napa.
You didn't go.
I was not supposed to be there.
I don't see the Napa Valley guy.
But they kept saying, "Why, Dad? I wish you could come."
Yeah.
And I know it's football season, and all kinds of things. I wish you could come. I was like, "No, I wish I could come." And so on my calendar, and my wife, because of his calendar, she has access to my calendar. I put staff retreat.
Yeah.
And it was our welcome back to all of our staff that morning, and I've been planning it and Claire and Hawk up in my office helped me with this to make a surprise visit. So I showed up there having dinner. I had the itinerary. I had one, so I was on my way, got stuck a little bit in Dallas, but I was on my way to San Francisco, drive out to Napa to surprise them. None of my girls knew that I was coming. And except for my oldest daughter, she likes to see where I am. A lot of times on her iPhone, find my iPhone. So I'm on the plane, and my son says, "Dad, I think you got ratted out." I was like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "Maria's asking, why is Dad in Dallas?"
Oh, man.
And so my son's texting me, and I'm on the plane going back and forth. I said, "You can't let Mom know." I said, "So go ahead and tell him." So he told my Maria and Molly that he was going to go surprise. The Dad's going out to surprise. So I surprised him on that night. She was totally surprised. There's a video out there on Facebook or something. A lot of people, actually, some of our fans have seen it, and it was pretty cool.
It's supposed to be the other way around. We're supposed to track our kids,
I
right?
know.
Now they're tracking us.
Dad. I know, they're tracking us.
Wow.
And so I surprised her. It was a really cool thing. It was a great experience. And I was there for 38 hours.
That's great.
Yeah.
When you watch your son play football, is that different than you're on a UCF sideline? Like, how into that game are you, and what do you like?
It's funny you say that. We have a lot of conversations. He actually likes for me to be at the game. I didn't get to see his first game because Bishop Moores High School is where he goes in Orlando, and they played in Staten Island the Thursday night of our home opener. And he was up there, and I didn't get to watch it. It was streamed and all that kind of stuff. But he got defensive MVP. It was really cool. So I come home that weekend. I watch film with him, and I'm real happy for him. But yeah, it's a little different. I get a little into coach mode a little bit when I watch him. Yeah. I try to be real positive and all that stuff, but
Played in Staten Island.
Played in Staten
Well,
Island.
I played high school sports. If we left the county, it was like the biggest thing in
I
the
know,
world.
getting
like,
in a bus.
Yeah.
He played in
10-minute bus ride.
Staten Island. Yeah, they went up to Staten Island, made a week. They went to a Yankees game. They went to an Army Lehigh up in West Point. They got to the 9/11 museum, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Good for them.
I've never even heard of high schools doing that.
Now,
exactly. So everybody seems like they traveled to, but it was cool. And I do like watching his football games, and he's got 2 more years left, and I think that's the hard thing about what we do. We're not complaining. This is the life we choose, but trying to get to those type of competition. I miss a lot of stuff with my girls, you can imagine. So these next 2 years, when I'm in town, I'm not traveling. I won't be able to go to his game this Friday, but when I'm here, I'm going to try to go to his game.
Listen, got married in June. My kids were born in March and May. They know not football. My oldest daughter is getting married, and it's in February.
So what would you do if your
season.
daughter says, "Hey, Dad, I'm getting married. Wonderful."
Yeah.
And they said, and we're picking October 10th. What
they
would
wouldn't
you say?
even do it. They wouldn't do it. They already know.
But what if? But this is the only time my spouse can get married. What would you do? Would you miss the game?
Am I still paying for the wedding? Or what?
Would you miss the game?
I haven't missed a UCF game in 30 years.
So if she says, "Dad, it has to be on this day. You have a away game." What would you do?
Pick another date.
Pick another day.
Pick another
Sunday. Friday. I'll come in.
If I get back, yeah, but just don't do it on a football Saturday. My kids know.
And I think everybody hears about coaches and their time and all that stuff. And I once told a head coach that I had once, he was like, we're pretty busy. I was like, oh, I understand how busy you are. I said, so you've got one sport. Think about the ADs that have 16 to 20, 30 sports. And I try to get to as many as I can. So you miss a lot of stuff. And again, we're not complaining. This is, as they said in The Godfather 2, when Hyman Roth told Michael Corleone, this is the life we choose.
Yeah.
The life we choose.
Yeah.
And so it is. I mean, so it's great. I love watching our kids. That's the best part of what we do, watch kids. But you do get to miss. So when you have those little stolen moments, and you can go have family time, or you get to see your kids play, or, you know, when I used to go to when my daughters were really little, when I used to go to dance.
Got that nice little dance cheer
especially on an open weekend, and you're like, I hope these dance competitions is when I'm on the road, but they just happen to be the one open weekend. Hey, Dad, you get to go to these dance competitions. You're open that week. How long is it? It's all day, Saturday and Sunday.
Fantastic.
Wonderful.
It's great. Yeah, my daughter's getting married on Friday, so I can make basketball on Saturday. So
there you go. Awesome.
All right, let's talk football.
Yeah.
2-0 start to the season, couple of home games. Just give me some thoughts.
Well, we're excited. I think, first of all, I always talk to my staff about, what goes on between the lines is the head coach, my responsibility. Don't worry about that stuff. It's our job. And I always say it's a show. And we have an outstanding branding team, marketing team, communications, content team. They do a wonderful job. And we talked at the very beginning of this year. We did the pregame show before the New Hampshire game. What are you going to see different? I said you're going to see some new elements, right? Some new elements. The show, it's a production. And the one thing that we always talk about, and they hear me, Jimmy and Eric and all those guys hear me talk about, don't clear the dance floor. And when we go to weddings, right? It never happens. And everybody's pumping, they got the great songs. Everybody's excited about it. And it never fails. You got that one DJ or that one band. Everybody's on the dance floor. And then all of a sudden they slow it down and they play a slow song and everybody clears the dance floor, right? Well, we try not to clear the dance floor. So you got to keep the tempo up. And I think these guys do a great job. And we brought some new elements and some new part of the show, the fireworks, the palms up, the beep. I don't even know what
lights
we call
on,
them.
lights off.
Lights on, lights off. We did that last year, and I think people are having a great time. We're getting great comments, great feedback. A lot of people like to give us a lot of advice of what we're not doing. But the one great thing about the first two games is we've got a lot of great feedback about the show, about the production, and I think that's part of about entertainment. That's what we're trying to do. And if you can win the game, when you win the game, it's bonus. So.
We made it official, announced the new Hall of Fame class.
Yeah.
Great class. And Knight fans learned about Shaquem, and what a great moment at the kickoff luncheon as he was just so honored, and you saw the emotion, and it almost reconfirms, like, that's the passion of black and gold blood and everything, but a great class of him and some of the
that was hard
people.
Because you look him in the eye and you're like, okay, this is going to be easy. Hey, on behalf of the 2024 selection committee, I'd like to, and then all of a sudden his eyes start tearing up, my eyes start tearing up, and your voice gets a little shaky. And what's funny, in the past when I've had the pleasure to call some of the candidates or the recipients to them, I've never met them before.
Yeah.
But the emotion that comes across from them, I mean, I meet them for the first time. I get teary-eyed because they're teary-eyed, because I understand the hard work and the dedication and those times, and there's families that taking them to all the, the different competitions and what you do to go in and be an athlete and the hard work, and the fact that you get to tell us, you were one of the elite members of UCF athletics and the history of UCF athletics, and we're going to recognize you. And then obviously his story, Shaquem's story itself, with his challenges and physical challenges and being able to get drafted. It's a great story, and this is why live sports, college athletics, pro sports will still be on top of mind and be probably one of the most attractive things in our society, because it's so authentic.
Yeah.
Even though we're going to a more inauthentic, because of the way that some things are going with deceit and stuff that are going on right now and in the landscape. But those moments are very authentic, and that's why what we did this past Saturday with the pediatric care, the helmets, I mean, it went viral. And it's very authentic, because you had a group of young men that literally went to a cancer center.
And I think they learned so much.
They learned
too,
something like, you know what?
You
How lucky are we
Yeah.
that I get to compete? I get to walk on a football field or a playing surface and get to compete. How did this young person get dealt the bad hand? How did that happen? And I get this, and I get to compete in front of all these people and on TV, but yet this innocent person is dealt this bad hand. The least I can go and color with them and color this logo and slap it on the side of your helmet to pay homage to these young people and what they're fighting for.
And those guys will never forget it. Because you can't walk in there and not come out of there impacted by it and see the innocence of the kids. And that's what's great. And then to see it come to fruition in the game. And they know what that means now because our logo's got these colors and everything. It's great.
Yeah, they asked me to, Lauren Poppy from Orlando Health asked me to take a picture with some of the kids and the president. I didn't even feel worthy. I was like, I mean, you just
They're
looking at them. It's
just
just wonderful. But those are the authentic stories that we don't talk enough about. We talk about the competition. We talk about the wins. We talk about the losses. But we don't talk about the game behind the game. And that is really what we know. And why I think we wanted to start this podcast is because there is a game behind the game that no one really sees.
Yeah.
You see between the lines or the playing surface, but there's all these other things that are real life issues that these young people are dealing with to try to be successful to get to that next step in their lives. Yeah. And for decades and for a century of college athletics has been that mean to help young people break a cycle or change their family's circumstances for life and through their sport. And I hope we don't lose that. And we won't as long as we keep it top of mind. So we're going to have ADs on in these podcasts, and we're going to continue to talk about that. How do us as practitioners keep that top of mind that we're helping young people change their family circumstances?
Yeah, because we get so caught up in the day-to-day business stuff. For example, Lee Hunter was on our radio show last week, and he had this big smile on his face because his mom came to town and surprised him for his birthday. And I said, well, tell me what your mom has meant to you. And he said, everything. I've watched the struggles and the sacrifice she made. And I said, well, what is it that you want to become? He goes, I want to become an NFL player, a coach, and then I want to be able to give back because I watch people sacrifice for me. And that's what I want to do. And to me, that it's the innocence answer there. Of course, he wants to strive to play the next level, but he also gets it. He saw people make sacrifices for him, and he's like, I want to do that. I want to be able to have someone go, hey, Lee Hunter helped me. Yeah. And those are great stories.
They are, and I didn't know he wanted to coach. That's great that he wants to. Because I worry about that, the next generation, because of this industry and because of how it can be toxic at times. Let's just say what it is with fan bases and things like that, where you some people just don't want to do it. They're like, why would I subject it? Maybe I'll go coach high school, or maybe. But there's a lot of young people, and really our female athletes. You know, I have really, when I meet with a lot of recruits, and I know a lot of ADs do. But a lot of I always talk about being the next coach. And one of the things why and it doesn't always work out that way, and I'm not saying it's, I've tried to hire female coaches because I want them to be the role models for that next generation of coaches. When I was a young kid growing up, you very rarely saw. I had a track coach, though, that was a female, my jumps coach and stuff like that. But you very rarely saw female coaches, even in Little League, high school, college. You saw men, basically coaches. Yeah. Marion Washington, I got to see Marion when I was at University of Kansas. Marion Washington was the coach. She was one of the top female coaches, and she coached Cheryl Woodard and all those, those on the Globetrotters, had really good teams. So I saw how that you had a next generation. So I do think that is really important because as we know sport, what it does for your mental health, what it does for you as a person, as you're coming of age, the discipline that you have, it keeps people, I think on track and with their studies and it gives them a purpose. And I think when you show women that are in the business that also are moms, there's like, you can, because I think when I first started this 30 some odd years ago, a lot of the girls say, you ever want to be a coach? I'd love to be a coach, but you can't be a mom and be a coach. was like, what are you talking about?
Talk to Cindy Ball.
I was like, I said, yeah, you can. Absolutely, you can.
Yeah.
You can have, you can have a spouse. You can have kids. You can show up on, on family weekends. You can do all the things you can. You just got to structure it. And I think it's a good role model. So those are the next generation. I think, I know that kind of didn't go the way you wanted to, but I mean, I think talking about Lee Hunter, I think kids feel compelled because somebody helped them. Someone helped me.
Yeah.
I had coaches. I had a bunch of coaches, and I loved it. I ran track and I did all these different sports, and everyone was impactful for me.
Are there fall sports? We got soccer, we got cross country, we got volleyball going on right now.
Yeah, we got some good stuff going on. Soccer, we keep getting women's soccer. We're doing well, but we keep getting a lot of injuries. Men's soccer, we got a good ranking. I think we had some injuries there too, but we keep going lower in the polls. Volleyball out to a good start, and cross country's out there, and so just another year of in the Big 12 transitioning.
A lot of things happening in fall sports. One of the things that Terry talked about in our podcast, we're going to talk to ADs throughout the country. And this week, UCF travels to TCU to take on the Horned Frogs. Jeremiah Donati's been the AD there at the Fort Worth campus for quite some time, and he joins us. Welcome. How are things in your world?
Things are good. Excited to have the Knights coming into town this Saturday night, but no, things are good. The long drought of football season, or when it's over, you feel like it's never going to get here. Then you look up and all of a sudden we're on to game 3. So things are good here. Obviously a wild time in college athletics and the Big 12, but those are all first world problems, as my staff likes to remind me. Everything's good, and we're excited to have you all in town here in a couple of days.
We got a lot of Jeremiah. I love having you on. Thanks for coming in today. This is great, and this is really a fun, casual conversation. So tell. I got a lot of TCU stories, but one of the things before we get to talk about stay with the game, it's family weekend, and you guys are unveiling some new uniforms. I got some good, cool things going on.
Yeah, you'll love this. As black and gold is your primary colors. We are having a blackout. We've got some new uniforms. We're proud Nike partners, and this year we've got a new uniform unveil. And what's funny is, yes, it is family weekend, so we'll have a great crowd. It's going to be awesome.
Sold out?
Sold out. Yeah, it's sold out. We'll have it wouldn't be impossible to have a record crowd for students, just because we've got a bigger student population this year. And we had last week against LIU, Long Island University, the Mighty Sharks. We had our 4th biggest crowd ever. So it's foreseeable to think the students could show up even bigger for a massive game. But yeah, family weekend, and our parents are pretty excited because for whatever reason, I don't know if this has been the case at UCF. I've been here 12 years now, 7 years as the AD. Every single family weekend is an 11 a.m. game. And then these poor parents come, and it's like 1,000,000 degrees here the first few weeks of September. And so it's going to be warm that day, but it's going to be a perfect night for football, and it's pretty excited to have a 6:30 p.m. local kickoff.
So, Jeremiah, a couple little things. There's little TCU connections. I was a young coach when the Heisman Trophy winner. Oh my gosh, Sullivan.
Pretzel.
Huh? So yeah, Coach Sullivan was the coach. And back then, before you guys renovated, we'll talk about your stadium renovations. It's beautiful, one of the best stadiums in the country. You boasted, and not a lot of people realize this, you boasted as the best press box food in the nation. And so I remember going in, we were at the University of Kansas, I was a young coach, and I remember I was up in the box. Marc D'Antonio was going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame this year from Michigan State in Las Vegas. We went up there, it was like, Terry, and I was his GA. He's like, you got to go get me some of that fried chicken. All right, you got to go get me some of that fried chicken. It's the best press box food. And I was like, well, I started thinking, I was like, we should probably be concentrating on beating TCU. And we went in, and I went and got all these buckets of fried chicken for our coaches. And TCU just put a whooping on us, man. And I think we left it all right there and took off, huh?
Was it a diversion? We get you guys thinking about fried chicken.
I don't know.
Planning.
But do you remember the days when people don't realize this is, and our fans today probably don't, but like in order to get media to come to your games, because before, online media, press box foods was a big deal. What kind of press box food you had was a huge issue.
He's our SID, Marc Cohen, who does a fantastic job for us. You know, one year we had him rank the Big 12 schools, and you know, the school you were talking about that you coached for, unfortunately, didn't do too well in that on that ranking. But
they didn't have very good food because I was coaching. I was up in the box and I never could find anything. I would go next door and steal Roy Williams' cheese ball because his cheese ball was his suite was next to the coach's booth, and when he left early, I'd go take his cheese ball and bring it in.
Travis Goff at Kansas that you know, now that they're doing this massive stadium renovation, expansion and renovation, that I'm expecting they'll get that shored up when we come and visit them here in a couple of years. So, you know, it's funny you said that. You know, I wasn't here for the old stadium. My first year here, the stadium was under construction, and so all those kind of good stories and horror stories of the old stadium, I only know from third person, right? Or you know, from stories or from hearsay, rather, is what I meant to say. So in videos. So I wasn't here for it. My father, ironically, was on staff at Washington State. He was a team physician. And in 91, Washington State came down and played the Horned Frogs when they were in the Southwest Conference. My dad went for a run before the game. He said it was the hottest he's ever been. You know, Washington State won some barn burner like 10-7, but he said it was the hottest he's ever been at a football game. So that was always my impression of TCU, was they had this Horned Frogs that couldn't wear purple because UW was purple. And so if you're a Coug, you could never wear purple. So it wasn't until I got here I completely changed my wardrobe. But that was my first impression of TCU. You mentioned the fried chicken. Mine was the heat and this funny Horned Frog mask.
Well, you guys come a long way, and you know the trajectory you guys have had over the last 10 years. I think your first year in the Big 12 was 2012. I was back on the staff at Kansas when you guys came in the league, you in West Virginia. And so, you know, we kind of model our trajectory. Obviously, our schools are a little different, public, private, size of the schools are different. But as far as the success you have, you took your team, you've been there for 12 years. You took your team to the national championship 2 years ago. You guys are kind of the model of one of the newbies in the last 15 to 20 years going to the Power 4 level. And maybe you can just talk a little bit about why was the ascension of TCU so elevated so quickly?
Well, I think, and thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. Of course, it wasn't one person or two people. It was, you know, a bunch of people and a bunch of, you know, it was a 40-year overnight success story, much like you guys. And I commend you all. And you mentioned West Virginia. They've done a fantastic job. But Utah is also another one that made that jump. If you think about, you know, from the group of 5 level to the power level, they've done really, really well. And I think what's consistent with all of us is really kind of commitment from the top and, you know, kind of seizing that moment. Like we had prepared for that moment by rebuilding the stadium. We had the donor support kind of there. So to some degree, because of our football success, we kind of looked the part before we were in that role. And I think that was probably...
You definitely did.
I think our geography made a lot of sense, right? To be right here in DFW. You know, it's kind of funny that we're surrounded by all these big schools, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, name the school. We're kind of right on the verge of SEC country, pre-Texas OU. But really, it was TCU was in SMU as well. We're the only schools smack dab right here in the middle of the Metroplex. So there was an opportunity there. And of course, when some of those schools left, you know, we kind of were able to seize the moment. We made a lot of sense. We've always done this, and I know UCF has done this as well. We've kind of punched above our weight class as far as our like viewership. You know, we have 100,000 living alums, but if you look at like television ratings, we seem to do really well. And, those were just kind of things that worked for us. But I would say it kind of starts at the top. I mean, our chancellor has kind of always gotten the association with student experience and big time athletics, and he wanted to really double down on that and make sure we're delivering. So we've been fortunate to have great alignment at that leadership level. And I think it's not a cliche. It really does matter. You see some schools where you hear these horror stories where the AD and the president don't talk, or the head coach and the president aren't friendly, and you just go, I don't know how you could ever be successful these days if those things aren't the case. And we've been fortunate that has been the case here.
Let me jump in a second, John. I mean, you talked about facilities and the importance, and TCU's gone through that upgrade in its stadium. Can you share a little bit about that journey, fan experience, what it's meant as UCF is about to embark on that next couple of years, and just what that has meant to the program?
Yeah, it's exciting. It'll change It'll change your game day. Terry will appreciate this. You know, I used to be able to walk every suite, and now the game day has gotten so big because of all the premium spaces. You can't do that anymore, but that's a good thing. And, you know, one, it's brought in more revenue, but it's really enhanced the stadium. I think you guys will see when you're here.
Yeah, it's if I could interrupt, just saying, it is, and I say this often, it is the nicest stadium in the United States. As far, maybe not the biggest, but as far as the features, I reference it all the time.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. We have taken a lot of pride in making sure that it won't be the biggest. It can't be the biggest. It shouldn't be the biggest. But, you know, we like to say that it'd be hard to find nicer. And I mean that the stadium's 12 years old now, except for the new East Side expansion that you'll see, and which is 4 years old. But it's been a game changer for us because one, it's like I said, it's brought in more revenue. It's brought a really big time feel to the games, and so, you know, I'm glad that we were able to do it then and not just starting a project like next year. I think that would be a little daunting with just the revenue sharing and coming in. And I know you've already had your plan in place, which is great. If I were looking down the path, you know, and saying, oh, there's a stadium renovation in the next 4 to 5 years, I'd be a little nervous just because of all the uncertainty in our world. Yeah. But, you know, I think the hard part is you do all this stuff and then, like, the players never see it. We've tried to actually, like, have a lot of events inside the stadium for the guys because they're just down in the field and in their locker room. They're not up at the club. They don't have a suite. You know, they're the ones that are giving their blood, sweat, and tears for us. So, you know, it's been big for us. The first stadium renovation 1.0 was, you know, kind of laugh at this. The stadium you're referencing, Terry, from over 20 years ago, was $175 million renovation. Today, modern day dollar, that'd be probably over $300 million. Oh, yeah. And then the East Side expansion was $114 million, and 5 years later, I bet you that's a $175 million project. So timing sometimes in life is everything. And you kind of couple that with the Barnett Shale. For those of you who are not in the oil business, the Barnett Shale was a massive oil play here in Texas, and so a lot of people had a lot of money to spend, and it was all privately funded, right? So Stadium 1.0, the $175 million project, in a large part was due to the explosion of the Barnett Shale and the oil and gas industry at the time in the early 2010s.
And the boot guy, right? There's a boot guy that. You got how many pairs of boots do you have, Jeremiah?
I have 6 pairs, and they're all custom fit. You know, I know people, you know, that have 20 pairs, but if you get a good pair of custom boots, and we're going to talk about some cool places to go when you're in Fort Worth. If you want a good pair of custom boots, you'll wear them like tennis shoes. They don't hurt your feet. They're not like wearing traditional dress shoes. If you get a good pair of custom boots, you could go to bed in them.
I'm trying to think if I should break out my Lucchese's for this game or not. Oh, so I'm.
What color are they?
Black. Has logos on them too. Has logos. I may have to break them out.
You know, the Justin boots who you're referencing, who outfits our showgirls, and Justin is one of our largest donors. They've just been tremendous. You'll see the Justin name all over our campus here when you're here.
When I took the tour, I think I went in, they showed me his suite, and I remember seeing the boot. That was really cool. It was really cool.
I mean, so my neighbor is the owner of ML Letty's, which is a custom boot outfit down in the stockyards, which they do fantastic. You walk in there, it's pretty cool. This is a little plug for them as well. They do like you'll have like Michael Jackson's footprint in there, George Strait, and so, you know, everybody who's anybody gets custom boots.
Jeremiah Donati's footprints in there now. Yeah.
We got a couple of our colleagues in the conference, Terry, have their footprints in there.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So my point is, everybody kind of comes through the stockyards, and so, you know, Justin Boots has been fantastic. But there's a number of.
I'd like to see Mac Rhodes' style he picked out. What kind of?
I know that Mac is wearing boots, though I rarely see him with socks, so that would be kind of a stretch. So anyhow, but we're looking forward to having you guys. Make sure, you know, that you guys get a chance to check out the stockyards if you haven't. It's a fun time.
So Jeremiah, 7 years ago, Chris Del Conte takes the Texas job, and you get elevated. You got a really cool story, because I always say there's no rhyme and reason to how an AD gets into the AD chair. Yours was a little different. But it's really kind of a cool story. The time we spent together, we've talked about it, and I think it's good to share with everybody else. You've got a legal background, you've got a law degree, a Juris Doctorate, so you have a terminal degree. You went hard and wanted to go in the player representation business at one time. So you got a job, you applied, and you got a job, and I know you bird dogged them and got a job working for Lee Steinberg, which for those people that are listening, Lee Steinberg, the movie Jerry Maguire was kind of patterned after his life, and they had some other characters. I did want to say one thing. That Bob Sugar character, J. Marc, is that you? Is that supposed to be you in the movie? I know you're a much better looking guy than him, but
the word on the street is that's supposed to be Drew Rosenhaus.
Oh, okay.
And, yeah. And so, Drew would probably take exception to that, but that's, I've heard that from incredibly reliable sources. And so, they filmed Jerry Maguire in our offices when I worked with Lee. And if you go back and watch the movie, it's the airport scenes. That's John Wayne Airport in Orange County, in Santa Ana, Newport Beach. When I was in the office, they'd have all these pictures of the Tom Cruise and Cuba Gooding in the offices. And, it was a pretty cool thing. And that really kind of opened up everyone's eyes to the world of sports agency.
Yeah.
And so Lee was a pioneer, for those, Lee now, this is his fifth decade, I think, of representing athletes. And he started with Steve Barkowski from Cal, the Cal quarterback back in the day. To modern day, of course, he represents Patrick Mahomes now, and Tua, who your Florida fan, those in Florida will know really well down there with the Dolphins. And so he's still kicking butt. And it was an unbelievable experience for me. I worked with Lee for almost 6 years, learned a lot. And I thought I was going to be, him, and I wanted to be him. And then I had this client, Cristo Conti, who I helped negotiate his contract from Rice to TCU. And, at the time I was helping represent football players, fighters, and coaches. June Jones, being one of them, ironically, over at SMU. And he calls me, Doug Conti calls me, and he's like, "Hey, you wouldn't believe this place. I need you to come down here. I need you to take this job." And I'm like, "Chris, I got a girlfriend here. I'm living in Newport Beach. I'm working with Lee Steinberg. I got a girlfriend here. Girlfriend's not my wife. Life's good, man. I've never been to Fort Worth. I don't need to go to Fort Worth." And if you know Chris, he just kept bird dogging me. And finally, it was the Rose Bowl. And Rose Bowl was right up the street because I was in Newport Beach. He was in LA. He said, "Hey, come up. I want you to meet some people." I came up, and the people at TCU were unbelievable. And then afterwards, he said, "Come out and visit. And if you don't like it, I'll never bug you again." And I'm telling you, and this kind of correlates a little bit to UCF's move into the Big 12 2 years ago. I came here at the time we were in the Mountain West Conference. The stadium was in shambles, but you stepped on this campus and you could just feel there was something special about this place. I got home. I called Nicole, my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, and I said, "Babe, I don't know what it is about this place, but this would be a place to take a flyer on. You want to be in life. You want to be places going like that." And this place felt like that. And it's proven to be the best decision that I ever made professionally. Cool.
So you did a lot of player acquisition, talent acquisition, and a lot of ADs don't have experience with it because we've never been in that space. You obviously have a leg up on most ADs. So how are you going to go back to those days as you navigate? How are we going to go as we navigate the new? We have a lot of pundits nationally talking about what they think you have to do, but you actually where the rubber meets the road. You've dealt with it firsthand more than most people. So where do you see this going as far as the rev share, and how are we all going to create these, in my mind, you create these talent acquisition departments or player acquisition departments? I don't know, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think if we're really going to be honest with ourselves, these marketing deals and NIL deals, it's hard to find really big ones that are true fair market value. And I'll give you an example. I'm not going to use the player because it's not appropriate. But, I did a lot of, marketing deals for NFL players, right? And so for this purpose of this conversation, let's just talk about football players at UCF, TCU, name the school. There's only probably 10 or 12 in the country that have marketing value that, would put money on the table that is really something to shake a stick at, that we're seeing right now in these NIL collectives. And why is that? Well, you could talk about them buying a face mask or whatever it is. But if you named off, the Patrick Mahomes, the Dak Prescotts, name the next 10 in the NFL. Yeah. The point is there's just, right? I'm saying there's just not a lot of it's going to be really difficult. I think people are going to be surprised that if all these things that the settlement entails come to fruition, I love the fact that it becomes more of an institutionalized revenue share. Then the NIL, the craziness that comes with that kind of goes away or is minimized a little bit. I mean, Terry, we represented, Lee did, and we did all pros, like NFL all pros. And we were doing $50,000 deals with Nike. Like these were, annual deals. Like these are guys that are in Hall of Fames.
That are getting $50,000. That's the fair market value right there.
That's the fair market value. Now, granted, that was 12 years ago, but still, it's not. Yeah. Those $50,000 deals aren't $1 million deals today. Those are, that might be $100,000 deals today. My point is, we don't have anyone on your roster or my roster who can shake a stick at this guy I'm referencing. He's literally in a Hall of Fame. And so my point is,
that's a great reference.
I'm optimistic that this has a way of kind of resetting the market and stabilizing a little bit, because I think that's a good thing. I'm not saying players shouldn't get money. I think NIL is a great thing. The way in which it was adopted was a disaster, and we know that. And it's been really hard to put the toothpaste in the tube. So I would suggest, rather than do that, we just create a model that's sustainable, we can all live with. It's not going to be perfect. We know that's not the goal is not to make this perfect model. But when I was in the NFL, or worked for the NFLPA rather, you had group licensing deals. You had a governing agents or body, which was the NFLPA, that oversaw agents, that made sure there was no tampering. That was kind of the watchdog for this. Holy smokes, what a novel idea, right? Because we all have these kind of horror stories about working with agents these days because they have no accountability. And so those are kind of some quick, easy fixes, I think, that we as an industry should really be drilling down on. I know you've taken a leadership role there in helping us get there. A lot of work to do there, but I think that's kind of the dream, if you will. That's kind of the vision of where this could go, because I've seen it with my own two eyes. I've seen how it works. And the NFLPA is, if you have cheaters, if you have people who aren't following the rules, guess what? They get their certification cut. They're no longer in the business.
That's a great point. It's a great point. I mean,
like that's a pretty reasonable approach, I think.
And if you look at the pro market right now, and tell me if I'm wrong here, if I'm mistaken, is there's no other pro or entity that has a third party making payments. Right.
Yeah.
You got real NIL deals going with marketing agencies, but not making payments.
And here's a novel concept, Terry. You know what happens to NFL teams when they break the rules or they tamper with another guy's player? They get fined and they lose draft picks. Yeah. Imagine if a coach were to lose scholarships or revenue sharing dollars because they broke a rule. You think they'd do that again? Probably not. That's so. I think I'm not advocating for a rule like that, but my point is just saying that I think there's a better system out there that we just need to get our arms around.
There's no doubt. Well, listen, before we go, I know Marc's we're going to do one thing with you, but I can't tell you how much busy week, you got a game week, you got family week, that you came on today, how awesome it is to have you. You're one of the best guys in the business, one of the top ADs. Team was very, very, not very many times do ADs get to take their team to the national championship in football. So congratulations. I was there. It was really cool seeing you, especially after I got through serving on the CFP and getting to see one of your colleagues in the room playing and participating was pretty awesome. So congratulations. But I know
appreciate that, and I think the world of you when we get together. You're always one of the first guys I run to. We're excited to have you here. I'll tell you this: you thank me for being on this call, guys. Let's just be honest. I have no one calling me right now about tickets to the game. No one's complaining about their parking spot. I have not run into me. This is the best 30 minutes of the week.
Let me do this, a couple of things. We're going to do a lightning round of questions, but for Knight fans coming to the Dallas-Fort Worth area and TCU, give us a couple of things that are must-visits for them on their first trip there.
Got to go see the stockyards, the Fort Worth stockyards, the historic stockyards. The mantra of Fort Worth is where the West begins. And so you'll go to stockyards. It's kind of like walking back in time. It's got brick roads, and you'll see horses and cattle during the cattle drives twice a day. You can get custom boots there. You can get yourself a straw hat for the flight back. And it's a great sports town. It'll be a little warm this weekend, but go get yourself a schooner and beer and get yourself some barbecue while you're here, but make sure you go hit the stockyards.
All right, here we go. Lightning round. Questions. First question. What's your favorite sports movie?
Hoosiers.
Favorite athlete or sports team growing up?
Oh, Michael Jordan, the Chicago Bulls.
Favorite vacation spot?
It's a tie. Newport Beach, California, and Vail, Colorado.
Black coffee or cream and sugar?
Black. Just like I like my night games and naming cards.
Favorite TV show, either now or growing up?
Sorry, favorite TV show?
Favorite TV show, either now or when you're growing up. Favorite TV show?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm going to go Yellowstone. I'm in the Yellowstone mode right now. We're talking stockyards. We'll go Yellowstone.
Pre-game or game day superstitions?
Oh, my superstition is that I'm not superstitious, but you find yourself in these little ruts doing these things because they've been working, and you find yourself 2-0. So, I'm doing all those things, by the way. So hopefully we get to 3-0. I'm sure Terry's doing the exact same thing on his side.
Yeah,
I have no real superstition.
When is Terry on your podcast?
That's a good question. We'll have to get him on before basketball season. I'll get with Brian Estridge, your counterpart here, and we'll get him on there.
Well, once we get the schedule out, so we'll know when. Well, maybe that'll be coming soon, huh?
Coming soon.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
I'm excited to get down.
Look forward to seeing you, man.
That's the one thing about having this big conference is we don't get to play each other every year. So we'll be in Orlando soon. Appreciate you guys, and safe travels here.
Thanks, bud.
Jeremiah.
Appreciate you, Jeremiah. Appreciate you coming on. Take care.
See you guys.
Great stuff. Great guy. And exciting time, isn't it?
That was fun.
Yeah.
You know what? I think we can do this more.
He's got good insight.
Yeah.
Working with Lee Steinberg, I thought that gave a different angle to really understanding the world that we're in right now, and he brings a perspective about a real market versus the market.
It's really interesting. I bring it up a lot, and Jimmy and the guys on our external team, we talk about fair market value, and sometimes you get pushback from other people. You're talking about a Hall of Famer. He represented Hall of Famers, and they weren't getting that type of money. When you hear these people or these athletes are getting paid $1 million for their name, image, and likeness, they're not even getting that in the pros.
No, he's talking about Hall of Fame guys that they're out there trying to find deals for.
Yeah, so
different world.
He's a great guy, and he's a great leader in the league. And again, I followed their trajectory ever since I was a young coach, and what they were able to do when they got into the Big 12. They made some waves really quickly.
Yeah, a lot of similarities too. Their stadium's about the size of ours. They did some upgrades, and people are going to see it loud and a bounce in place. A lot of
it's a beautiful campus, and it's it's good. So
thanks, partner. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time for Terry Mohajir. I'm Marc Daniel. See you next time for AD Chats with Mohajir and Marc.